It is unbelievable being with you. First of all, I interviewed you last. I want to show this to you. My pinned tweet on Twitter is a picture of the two of us when I interviewed you back in January of 2017, or March of 2017.
Okay.
So I remember our last interview. So it's wonderful having the opportunity to interview you again. And first thing I'd love to start out with is I interviewed you at the beginning of the Trump presidency, and here we are fairly into it.
Yeah.
Love to hear your overall thoughts.
I think the president has been a shocking positive influence on the world. Not shocking to me, but shocking to the critics. So many people did not believe this president was going to be able to do the things that he said he would do. But he's completely revived the American economy, largest GDP we've had in years, lowest unemployment among minorities we've ever in history. We've seen a remarkable change of relationships with countries all over the world, including Saudi Arabia, as well as other Arabic countries. But then if you look at the shift of relationships with North Korea, you look at the fact that he's kind of nudged the NATO countries to start paying up. People call it a trade war, but what he's actually doing, he's saying America's serious about having reciprocity in our trade agreements and fairness. Well, the long-term effect of that is incredibly positive, not just for the U.S., but for the world. But then for many people, and especially in your audience, I would say the crown jewel is that he has completely revived an American-Israeli relationship. And there are many people who didn't like Trump, didn't believe he would be a positive leader. But if they're pro-Israel and they don't appreciate this president, then they're irrational, and there's no explanation for their view. Because here is a president who not only has a warm, wonderful relationship with the prime minister, unlike the previous administration that had a very frosty relationship. This is a president who said he was going to move the embassy, but every other president did, so nobody believed it would happen. But he did it. And when I personally asked him, as close as you and I are to each other, why did you do it? He said, I promised I would do it, and it's the right thing to do. I found that refreshing.
Oh, and that leads me exactly to my next question, because the refreshing thing in Washington, I believe, thanks to President Trump, is this unabashed ability to say the truth, to stand, no more political correctness and shying away from saying the truth about right and wrong, like you mentioned yesterday.
For him, this was a black and white decision. This was not a shade of gray. I don't think people can fully appreciate the pressure that he was under to not do this. You just have no idea. I'm a little bit aware of some of it. Foreign governments were calling him frantically, saying, please don't. These are friendly countries to us, countries with whom we have great relationships, countries we want to continue to have great relationships, and their leaders were calling and urging him to not do it for fear that it would create an uprising, that it would cause tension, struggles, that it would just be a terrible reaction. As it turned out, that's not been the case. Which I think all along, many of us said, you're not going to make people who hate Israel suddenly start loving Israel. So what's the difference? But I also found that in the midst of the pressure, not only from foreign governments, but from within the State Department and even people in his own administration, who just said, maybe the timing's not right. Maybe you should put this off a lot. I think in his mind, he put it off long enough. And that he said he was going to do it. He knew it was the right thing to do. He did it. And there were tears in my eyes. I was here on May the 14th. I was here.
Oh, that's right.
And I sat there, my wife and I've been coming here since 1973. She's been coming with me since the early 80s. We both were just overwhelmed with emotion that something that we knew should have happened, we thought might never happen because no one had the guts to do it. This president had the guts to do it.
Do you feel that there has been a change in Washington? I'm not talking about the foreign governments, but in Washington and the apparatus that was very much against it. Now that it's done, Is it making an impact or making a change in the thinking of more along the lines of what he's trying to drive American policy?
I would love to tell you that Washington is kind of warming up to Donald Trump, but the fact is the resistance is stronger than ever. I think they see that this is not a president that they're going to push back on and win. Historically, they have. Presidents would come into Washington, they would promise change, and within a few months, the presidents would kind of say, well, maybe we don't need to change everything so much after all. This is a president who doesn't put a fight. And if anything, I think the pushback against this administration from the media, from the Democrats, from the deep state, as we call it in the country, is stronger than ever because they don't know what to do. They've never faced anyone like Donald Trump. He's a force of nature. And they don't know how to deal with him. And so the only thing they know to do is to do everything they can to stop him. They're trying to stop him illegally, immorally. They're trying to stop him by taking away his credibility from the election. The whole Russia investigation is a total fraud. None of this should be surprising, but we're seeing what happens. Let me put it in a less than kind way. The rats have been cornered, and the only thing they need to do is to bite.
Right. No, totally understand that analogy. And just as an aside, have you ever had a conversation with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about the similarity between what the deep state in America is trying to do to American presidency and what he is up against also with our own deep state here in Israel? Just as an aside.
I would never disclose the contents of a private
Understood.
conversation, but let me just say, as an observer, there's no doubt the parallels are stunning. Because with both Netanyahu and with President Trump, you have leaders who are strong, who have done remarkable things for their countries, but who get almost no credit because the resistance to them both personally as well as governmentally is so intense. Because they want to do the things that would require significant change. It would require a shifting of the axis of power away from people who have held it, regardless of the administration, who was in power, who was out of power, and to do bold things that need to be done that would be transformative of a country. And in both cases, the resistance is unbelievable. And I do think that the Prime Minister here receives an incredible level of unfair criticism, attack, and those who can't beat him politically, which they obviously have not been able to do despite their best efforts, now resort to personal attacks on him, his family, his integrity, his character, trying to bring him down because they can't do it politically, so they'll try to do it personally. And I find it revolting, absolutely revolting. They ought to be standing up and giving him an ovation for keeping this country safe, for advancing it, for helping it to prosper. Is he perfect? No, no leader is. But I'll tell you that there's rarely been a leader in my lifetime who has been as effective in rising to the occasion of the geopolitical challenges that he faces as the head of a country, and who has done it with a greater sense of resolve and success that Benjamin Netanyahu has done.
All right. And just pushing this issue a little further, I'd love to hear your insight. There's some journalists who I follow, who I work with, Caroline Glick, Melanie Phillips, and if you're familiar from Britain, and they touch upon the fact that what's really going on here, especially this comes up with the new nation state bill here in Israel, that what's part of this conflict that we see within our societies is a cultural clash, or some people call it a cultural war, or some people don't want to use the word war, but a cultural clash of values, which at its core, it's about those who feel a strong patriotism to their nation, to their identity here at Israel, the Jewish identity, the Jewish state, America, American patriotism, other nation states, and that's behind most of all these conflicts that we're seeing. And any insight into that view?
Well, there's no doubt. Certainly that's true in the United States right now. The cultural conflicts do hold the foundation of a lot of the political conflicts. There are people who want to create a completely different kind of culture based on rejecting the traditional Judeo-Christian foundation in America. For here, it would obviously be the traditional Judeo foundation. when you shake yourself loose from your roots, from your foundation, from what made you strong, from what gives you boundaries, and in the Proverbs, it said, don't move the ancient boundary stone set by your fathers. Why does it say that? Because those are your guide points. Your GPS doesn't work if the guide points don't lead you in the right direction. In the old days, before we had GPS, we just had physical markers. There were road signs, there were landmarks. Landmarks are important because it gives us our bearings. And without landmarks, when you destroy them, you're lost and you're disoriented. I think if a person steps back and looks at many parts of our culture today, you'd say, it's a confused culture. It's lost. It's disoriented. It seems to not have a direction. Why? Would you take your landmarks away? You can't find your way. It's disturbing. And I think it's most disturbing that a lot of younger people almost have the worldview that says, there's no such thing as objective truth. There's no such thing as a fixed law or something that is always right, always wrong. It's how I feel, what I think, what I believe. Well, think, feel, believe, that's great, but that's incredibly subjective, and it's very dangerous, and it leads to death and destruction.
Right. Wow. All right. Take a step back. You're here again. You mentioned yourself, and I heard you say this. You've been coming and visiting Israel since 1973. You've been here countless of times, and you're here once again with Joe Frager, the National Council of Young Israel. I must ask, here so many times, each time you come, or this trip, did you see something new, or experience something new, or why come back? There's so many places around the world, new places to experience it. You're coming back again and again to hear. What do you gain after each new visit?
Well, I always learn something new. I usually see something new. For example, this time when I went to the Yemenite village, that was new. I had not been there, and to see courageous Jewish families moving into a neighborhood that historically they've been shut out of, even though it has roots that are deep and ancient for Jewish people, and to be told they couldn't live there. Well, now they're living there again, and they're doing it in the face of all kinds of pressure. I think it's remarkable, the courage that they're showing to say, we're Jews. This is Israel. Of course we belong here. Right. You tell us we can't live in our own neighborhood? Right. What's up?
Right. I mean, for everyone watching, those who are not familiar, the Yemenite village that Governor Mike Huckabee is referring to is what today the mass media refers to as Silwan. They call it East Jerusalem, that it's an area that belongs to the Arabs, that the Jews have nothing to be there, that we have no association, we shouldn't be there, and Jews are moving there. Why? Because as Governor Huckabee said, it is originally the Yemenite village. There was Jews from Yemen who started that community over 100 years ago, expelled from the British, and then the Arabs came in, and they've been there since, and little by little the Jews are returning.
Yeah, and the fact is these families are showing that Jewish and Arab families can live side by side. They can coexist. It's not easy. Many of the Arab neighbors welcome them and accept that they're there. Others don't. But you're not going to bring a greater level of understanding by running and hiding. And so it was extraordinary to be at a ceremony to officially mark that village, that community, the synagogue there. It's a great step.
Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah. All right. Well, let's touch upon American politics for a second. Elections coming up.
Yeah.
I know, I'm almost positive you're familiar with Ruthie Lieberman,
yes,
who's very active in helping strengthen relationships between American politicians, Israeli politicians, the U.S.-Israel relationship. She works with a number of congressmen and senators on the Hill. And lately, she's been involved in on top of this upcoming elections and realizing that there are a number of fabulous politicians up for re-election. Jim Jordan, Brian Mast, Ron DeSantis, and a lot of money is going against their campaign specifically because they are so pro-Israel. I'm sure some for other issues as well, but there's specifically money going. I think J Street is unfortunately one of the organizations pushing money behind them.
It could be. I don't think it's so much a factor in the Ron DeSantis race, who is leaving Congress to run for governor of Florida. I'm a voter in Florida now, I live there. So I'm familiar with that race. And that's an intense race. The president has endorsed Ron DeSantis, but his opponent, Adam Putnam, is a very good guy. And so Adam Putnam would not be anti-Israel, and of course it would not make a big difference in terms of policy. So I don't think that race, but I do think some of the congressional and Senate races could in fact be targeted because you have people who are very strong for Israel. You mentioned the Jim Jordan race. I cannot see that he would be defeated because he's such an incredibly strong leader, strong voice, capable. It would be a tragedy not just for Ohio, it would be a tragedy for the United States. Even without Israel, it'd be a tragedy to lose his voice and his leadership in the Congress.
Anything that we can do, pro-Israel advocates in America and Israel, in order to assist in any of those races you know about, or just getting the word out?
I think getting the word out. Every time you know of someone who's a strong supporter of the relationship between the United States and Israel, I think it's important to let your friends and family back in the States know this is someone that is very helpful, not just to you and your district, but he's helpful to the broader international scene to bring a level of real alliance, which is good for both countries. Many people don't understand that the intelligence that is shared by the Israelis to the United States is vital in U.S. Protection. We are better off as a nation, the United States is, because of what the Israelis are able to share with us by way of intelligence. The loss of that relationship, some people may say, well, what does it matter to us? It matters a lot to us. It matters more than most Americans will ever understand for their own national security.
I forgot whose quote this is, but someone very prominent once said, in light of all the criticism, like, well, the U.S. gives so much aid to Israel, so why are we giving so much aid to Israel, or Israel should listen to everything we say? And then I think it was a U.S. politician said, Israel is invaluable, worth more than all of the aid we give it.
And we don't really give them that much aid. I mean, I think people have this idea that we just are writing big checks. We really aren't. We give far more money to countries who give us nothing but grief and trouble, and sometimes their scorn. Israel gives us value, extraordinary value, and not just in intelligence. Does anybody enjoy using Waze to get from one place to the other? Do they like cherry tomatoes? Do they like seedless watermelons? Do they like cell phones? Let me be even more blunt. Do you enjoy a cell phone, a smartphone? You wouldn't have one without the Israelis.
A laptop.
Yeah, a laptop. So you have technology that benefits. There are a lot of heart procedures and cancer treatments that were developed in the extraordinary medical community of Israel that we wouldn't have, saving the relatives' lives and our own families had it not been. So when people want to complain, well, what about the aid? There's very little. Here's something most people have never understood. Not one time in the entire 70-year history of this country, not once, has Israel ever asked an American to put on a uniform and shed blood for this country. We have provided military hardware. We've never provided troops on the ground. American boots have never hit the soil to defend Israel. Israel defends itself. And there aren't many nations around the world, including most of the European nations, for whom that can be said. So I feel like we have more than gotten our money's worth for the assistance that we've rendered, and it's not been really that much.
Oh, fabulous point. Now, yesterday you were in my area, Gush Etzion, the Judean Hills, the town of Efrat. Looking at the headlines, I see that you're possibly buying a summer home next to me. We'll be neighbors.
Yeah, I don't think that's, I said it in jest, and the next thing I know, it's all over the New York Times and the Washington Post and all over the world that I'm buying a vacation home. I said it when we were putting the stone there. I had to quickly get hold of my wife. Thank God it was early in the morning there, and I said, just want you to know, I was just kidding.
You're always invited.
You're
always invited. Final message to Jewish people, to Israel supporters around the world.
Well, just know that Americans in general, I think, I truly believe this, and certainly the community that I'm a part of, the evangelical community, 60 million Americans who were very instrumental in electing Donald Trump, stand unabashedly with the state of Israel. We realize the incredible value of our friendship and relationship. We see it from a geopolitical standpoint. But for many of us, people of faith, it's also a matter of faith for us that we feel like it's an obligation to God himself for us to be supportive of the land of Israel and his people for reasons that he will explain to us one day. He's chosen Jewish people. He's chosen the land of Israel as his personal home address on earth. So it's up to us to recognize that, respect that, and be supportive of that.
Well, once again, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for getting it. Thank you for your support. Please, may God be with you and continue giving you the strength doing everything you do. Give over that message also to your daughter.
Thank you.
She is in a very central position and taking the heat. So we wish her the best of luck in continuing in everything she's doing, and obviously all the work with the Trump administration to benefit the United States of America, Israel, and humanity. So thank you so much.
Great to visit
Thank
with
you. Shalom, everyone from Jerusalem. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in. Have an amazing, amazing day, and get the word about everything that Governor Huckabee was saying. Shalom from Jerusalem.